Death Valley Part 1, we took a lunch break at the racetrack, and then it was time to take on Lippincott Pass.
Lippincott was one of the engineers on the Owens Valley water project.
The sign pretty much sums it up. Lippincott Pass is definitely one of the most scenic off-road routes in Death Valley National Park. It's only about 8 miles long and runs from Racetrack Valley Road to the Saline Valley, but even so, it'll take a couple of hours to drive.
That's a long way down.
This is a true backcountry road, make no mistake about it. There's no cell coverage and few people use this road. When we were on it, most of the road itself was in pretty good shape. There were a few washed out sections, but no one seemed to have any trouble with them. The things that make Lippincott so challenging are the narrow sections of road, sometimes with only a foot or so to the edge, the steep cliffs alongside the road, and steep sections of the road itself.
Definitely do not want to go too far off the side of this one.
It's hard to tell how steep some sections of the road are by watching this video, but you can kind of get a feel for it by looking at the other Jeeps in relation to mine. It's steep. Definitely low-range four-wheel drive country, whether you're going up or down. That's for sure. Lippincott Pass really was one of the highlights of the trip. When you get to the bottom, you're going to be glad you've got good ground clearance. There are a lot of sharp rocks and deep ruts to deal with. That blowing sound you hear in the background is the fan for my air conditioner. The temperature went from the mid-60s at the top of the pass to almost 90 degrees at the bottom. It was time to take a break, let everyone catch up, and if needed, fuel up. It also gave us a chance to talk about how much fun we just had. Then it was pretty much smooth sailing on well-groomed roads to Highway 190, where we'd air up before heading into Panamint Springs for the night.
Move, Dave. You're blocking the view.
I'm sure you'll get a shot.
I don't want to look at you. I want to look at the sweet one. See my anger management shot? Do you think all the neighbors around here get tired of us?
Probably, but do we care?
Panamint Springs is a good place to camp for the night while exploring Death Valley. There's a gas station with a small store, a restaurant, an RV park, and some tents and small cabins that can be rented. It's pretty much the only game in town, so don't expect competitive pricing. The next morning we headed out for another all-day trip. Our plan was to air down at the Ballarat Trading Post, a handy if not unusual jumping off point.
One thing I'd recommend today is a lower tire pressure. There's a long uphill and long downhill of loose shale road.
We're here at the Ballarat Trading Post. This is kind of our jump-off point for today's trip. So we just got our tires aired down and we'll be going in a few minutes.
The Ballarat Trading Post was established in 1896 and was built as a supply point for all the mining operations in the rugged Panamint Mountains to the east. It was named after a city in Australia's gold country. Today, Ballarat has only one full-time resident who was helpful when we asked him about the conditions of our route. It was also neat to see that even in the middle of Death Valley, he was proudly flying the American flag.
All right, thank you for that info.
This was our destination today, the rugged Panamint Mountains. We'd be exploring Pleasant Canyon Loop Trail, a 26-mile route rated as difficult. It'll take us up through Pleasant Canyon, south along a mountain range from Rogers Pass, then back down through South Park Canyon. Most of the route isn't real difficult, but there are sections that are very rugged and narrow and which will require good ground clearance and four-wheel drive.
I can see wet rocks up to the left going up the canyon.
About 5 miles east of Ballarat is an area known as Clare Camp, where the Ratcliffe mine sits unused. Mike, our guide, told us that the last time he was here, about a year ago, the mine was operational. There have been a few attempts to mine the leftover ore from years past, but it was definitely abandoned when we were there. At one time, the mine boasted a 4,200-foot aerial tramway, a 50-ton cyanide mill, and it was the area's largest producer of gold ore. We continued up Pleasant Canyon, and it was interesting to see how the environment was changing. Most of it looked like what you'd expect Death Valley to look like, but as you climbed an elevation, it looked more like a northern Idaho dirt road. There were the remnants of several mining operations along the route, and we saw several cabins that are part of the Adopt a Cabin program. Private owners are able to claim ownership of the cabin, and in return, they agree to maintain it. We finally reached Rogers Pass at an elevation of 7,160 feet.
Up here and check out this sign, Rogers Pass.
Rogers Pass is named for John Rogers, who, along with William Manley in 1849, set out to find a way over the rugged Panamint Mountains. Their group, which included women and children, had become trapped behind the towering mountains. Rogers and Manley walked more than 300 miles to Mission San Fernando. They got some supplies and returned to save their families. Not everyone survived, and some say that's how Death Valley got its name. Remember how my buddy Larry jinxed me in part 1? Well, that sound you hear is my transfer case not staying in 4 low. For some reason, it chose to start having problems on a backcountry rugged road in the middle of Death Valley. It doesn't get much more isolated than that. We had several miles of steep hills to descend, so it was important to at least try to get it working again. Descending those grades without 4 low would take a heavy toll on my brakes. I was able to get down the hill to a level area where Larry and his brother Stephen, both excellent mechanics, did some troubleshooting and made some adjustments.
Clear now, but I went quite a ways. I gotta tell you, I went 1/4 of an inch on this Lincoln. I go back to low 4. While we're rocking, keep rocking. Did it go in?
No, I'm just pulling it in.
Okay, that's what I'm hearing.
That's right. You can go to 2-wheel drive.
They did as much as they could and were at least able to get the transfer case to stay in 4 low for part of the time. We started heading westbound across a mesa on South Park Canyon Road and came across one of the locals who was just hanging out.
Steve and I were just talking, and we've decided that this is a weird bunch of people that like to do this kind of stuff.
All of a sudden, the terrain started to change quickly. The smooth, flat mesa we'd been driving on turned into a steep, rocky hill, and Mike, who was in the lead, radioed to us that he had reached Chicken Rock.
Yeah, I'm at Chicken Rock right now. I'm going to get out and walk it, and if somebody spot me, I appreciate it.
Chicken Rock is so named because some drivers might want to chicken out instead of driving around it. You have to make a relatively sharp turn around a large rock on a very narrow, uneven surface. The road is wide enough for most vehicles, but it's intimidating because you can't see the edge of the road, and it's a sheer cliff to the deep canyon below. The uneven terrain tips your vehicle toward the cliff and makes you feel like you're going to go over the side, which has happened. We took turns spotting each other and then headed for the next landmark, the Wood Bridge. It's a narrow bridge rated at 6,000 pounds and it's just wide enough for a vehicle. As you can see, the roads leading to and from the Wood Bridge are very narrow, and there's a sheer cliff along the side of the road. Crossing the bridge was actually pretty easy, but you can't help but wonder about its condition. It's not like it gets inspected regularly. After crossing the bridge, the roads continued to be very narrow and there were more tight turns. You really have to pay attention on this road. At the bottom of the grade, it was time to take another break. The last part of the day would take us over some very rugged terrain. It was basically just hardcore off-roading. Someone in our group said if they're ever reincarnated, they just hope they don't come back as an off-road tire. Just when we thought we were approaching the bottom of the grade, there was another steep, narrow hill to climb. That's okay, that's why we're here.